Hi, everybody. Welcome to Life Stories. I'm so glad that you're here. Today on the podcast, I speak with Pearl Chiarenza, who has too many things going on to list. She is a life coach and she helps women in lots of different ways, including these wonderful retreats that she has every year, mostly on beautiful places like the beach. She is so much fun to talk to. I learned a lot from her. And one of the most important things I learned from her is our word of the week.
It's the word of the week.
The word of the week this week is no. I talk on here a lot about encouraging people to volunteer, to give of their time, to give of themselves a little bit in whatever way they can. Any way you can volunteer and help someone else is wonderful. But then there's another extreme where we tend to give all our time away and we do everything because we feel like we have to. Pearl calls herself a recovering people pleaser. And there's a time when it is good to volunteer, but there's also a time when we may be saying yes to too many things. We need to evaluate our priorities and make sure things are in order. And we're not saying yes to everything just because we don't want to upset some people. It's okay to say no sometimes. It's okay to make sure you're taken care of. Because if you are empty, if you're giving everything away and there's nothing left for you, you're not really helping anybody. So I loved talking to Pearl today. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. She's so much fun. You need to check her out on her podcast, on her YouTube channel, and I'll have all that information listed below. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Pearl, I'm so happy to talk to you today. I had to write down everything that you're doing because there's so much. You have a lot going on. So you have your radio show that I just talked to you on. You have wellness retreats. You have women's successful living. You are an author and a speaker. And you were recently named one of 5 visionaries creating a community of change for our world. That is a lot.
That
That
oh
is
my
a
God.
lot that you're doing.
I was so honored. That came across like my PR person called, you're gonna be in this BuzzFeed article. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, and then I saw Michelle Obama. I'm like, oh wow. That's like I was like so honored. I couldn't
That
believe it.
is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So tell me about some of these things that you're doing. I know that you are a coach, that you have your, women's wellness, women's successful living. Tell me why you decided to start helping women, because in all these things, that's what you're doing. You're highlighting women on your show, you're helping women in retreats. Tell me why you started doing
Yeah, it goes back to a lot from my being a people pleasing addict. Like I just did
that.
so much for everybody all the time. And I realized, like you and I talked a little while ago on my show, that I we put so much on our shoulders that we forget that we
Yeah.
have to do something for ourselves. And so as I went on this journey, I did this 6 week course of identity and destiny. At the end, when I had to give my I am statement, I still was saying I was all my titles. My friend called me out on it. And I was like, wow, she's right. Like I really am still just wearing titles, that I decided I had to do something drastic. So I
Yeah.
needed to stop showing up for so many people and not for myself. So no lie, I was walking along one day and I saw this rock. I don't even have the rock to this day, but I just saw this rock. And for whatever reason, I picked up the rock. There's nothing special about the rock. And I had it in my pocket for a couple of days. I went to go do laundry probably like 3 or 4 days later, and there was that rock again in my pocket. I'm like, all right, God, why is this rock? What's up? What's the deal with this rock? Like,
Right.
why, what are you telling me? And so it just came to me that I was like, I need to start saying something no 3 times a day. Why 3 times a day? I think it was just like a number that came to me. And so I made a commitment to move this rock 3 times a day around between my pockets or in my bra strap. And so I was doing good with it. It was taking a little while. And then I started saying, okay, I'm still going to bed. I'm not hitting my 3 a day. So when I'd come home from doing activities or what have you, before I'd go to bed, I would start emailing and or texting somebody and saying, no, I can't do that for you. Like, no, I can't show up and do that event or whatever it was. And so I realized that it was becoming easier to say no, that no was a sentence, just like yes is a sentence. And so then as I did that, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been showing up for things I shouldn't have shown up for. But I
Yeah.
know somebody who probably would have been better at it for me. So the people pleasing in me was like, shame on you for closing a door for somebody else. So I started
Right.
like taking that people pleasing addict and making it for good. And so
Yeah.
as I went on this journey, and I started talking to other women, I was like, I'm not the only one who struggles with this. I'm not the only one who thinks I got to do everything for everybody, show up for all my
Oh,
kids,
yeah.
so that's why I switched from I used to just do weight loss. And that's why I switched my entire pivoted everything to doing not just weight loss, but helping women to step in the word no to others so they can show up for yes
Yeah.
for themselves.
Wow. So tell me about your retreats. What do you do at your retreats? Because I know they're in, Gulf Shores and beautiful places. So besides enjoying the sun and the water, what do you do in the retreats?
Yeah. So first of all, I tell everybody it's the easiest retreat you can pack for because what you arrive in, you can drive home in because when you get to the retreat, you're in PJs the entire weekend.
Oh,
So you
wonderful.
and I it's so much fun. I tell everybody you can let the girls hang loose. We don't care. And there's no makeup. Like you don't even have to pack your makeup bag. Like you can leave it at home because there is no makeup. You can expect to meet 23 other amazing women who are going to become your PJ sisters after you leave the retreat. You have
Wow.
4 days of yoga activations around things that help us with self-development, self-care. You get an amazing photography picture taken on the beach because how many times we go to the beach
Wow.
and we take a time for ourselves at the picture? Very rarely. And
That's such
then
a great idea.
it's so much fun. We still have spots left. We have 9 spots left. But the other thing too is we have a massage therapist on hand. So if you want to book a massage,
Wow.
that's the only thing that's not covered in the retreat. Everything
Yeah.
except for the massage and your transportation is covered. So you get your food, you get everything is included for the retreat price. You arrive on a Thursday. This year we have a lady coming from Colorado that's going to help you find your glow up color. She helps you do colors, and it's not like
Oh,
back in the
wow.
day. Remember back in the day, it was like your
Yes.
fall, winter, whatever.
Yes.
It's nothing like that at all. In
Yeah.
fact, she did mine virtually, and I was like, my son's getting married in the fall, and we were talking about a silver, and I told my son I don't want to wear silver, and Patsy's like, why don't you want to wear silver? It's you got to have the right silver. You're going to look great in silver. I'm like, really? And she showed me. I was like, oh, I never thought. So we're going to have things like that. We're going to
Oh,
have things that are
funny.
going to
Yeah.
challenge you. But when you leave the retreat, like literally, you're going to have tools in your toolbox to take with you to be like, this is how I can start my vision. This is how I can work on, if you're, some people are business owners that are coming. This is how I'm going to communicate my realistic expectations to my friends and family about why I need to do something for myself as well. So, like I
Right.
said, it's going to be a lot. It's always a lot of fun. This is our 8th one we're doing this year. And so
Wow.
if you're going to come, we keep telling me, come this year because in 2 years, we're going to Costa Rica for our 10th year anniversary.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So do you
Yeah.
do one a year?
One a year. I do one a year.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a lot of work for one. As
It
I
is, I
go
can imagine.
that people pleasing in me wants to make sure you have everything. So I
Yeah.
go
Well,
all out.
25 people, that's a lot of people to
Yeah.
do a retreat for. Do you do them that big every time?
Well, last year was our first time we had 24, and this year we're expecting another 24.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's awesome. So who is would benefit from going to one of your retreats?
Yeah. So the person sitting at home listening to us right now that is like, I'm tired of doing for everything for everybody else. I need to do something for myself. She should be at the retreat. The person that's waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning going, I'm so stressed out, or I'm not happy with what I'm doing in my life. She needs to be at the retreat. The person who has been saying for the past 5 or so years, I'm not happy in my relationships and I don't know what to do. I don't know where to move forward. She needs to be at the retreat. If you're somebody who has a business, that you're doing your business and you're thinking, I'm kind of tired of doing my business and I really enjoy making soaps, you might want to come to the retreat. Those are the kind of women that have come. Or if you're that woman at home that's like, I really want this new car, but my husband thinks I need to have this car, or I want this piece of furniture, but my husband doesn't think we need furniture, and you want to learn to communicate your realistic expectations, you need to be at the retreat.
So pretty much any woman,
Yeah, any woman.
because I think all women fall under
but
at least
but
one of those categories.
But you and I know, like, we have a great person that helps guide us. Kimberly, she'd be like, okay, hone
Oh
into who it
gosh.
is, right? She'd be like,
Yes.
not anyone, because I can have any woman show up, but she may not be
That's
the right
right.
woman, right?
That's right. That's right. So what is most fulfilling about what you do for you now that you're in the position you're in? How are you fulfilled in what you're doing to help other women?
So a couple of examples of the women that I would talk about that should be at the retreat are women that have come to my retreat. I've had
Yeah.
women come to my retreat that I actually had a speaker came one time and she was like, I can't come without makeup. And I told her she could be there with makeup on because she lost her son tragically in a very bad car accident. So for her, makeup was the thing. But when she got the retreat and she was so supported by everybody in the room, she didn't wear
Yeah.
makeup when she spoke. And it
Wow.
inspired her that when she left the retreat, Her and her husband sold everything, and they
Oh
put
my
four
gosh.
kids and four dogs in a Bluebird bus, and they've been traveling around the world. So
Wow.
yeah, so those stories bring me fulfillment. I had another lady, like I said, about the table. She wanted a new kitchen table. Her husband didn't understand why. After 20 some years, she wanted a new dining table. And she was like, I don't necessarily have to have the new chairs if I could reupholster them. So we sat down and we understood that her husband, he's about budgeting and having making sure that they're financially set. So we had to
Right.
talk to that and how to create the opportunity to say, I would like this table, but I can also do this, right? To show him
Yeah.
options. And the same thing with the car. I had somebody who their husband wanted them to have this a vehicle. And she was like, I feel unsafe in it. She's small, short like me. I don't feel safe in it. I love that he wants me to get me a car. I'm not saying that. It's just I don't feel safe. So having the communication be like, you're buying this car for me. I love it. I'm so honored. And I don't want to damage it. So can we look at this kind of
Right.
car? So it having
Yeah.
creating that space, right? And then also, like I said, I had a lady came, she was an esthetician, and she loved what she did, but she was ready to do something different. And she closed it up and she makes amazing soaps that we have at our retreat sometimes now. So
Wow.
yeah, so
So
that
pretty
just fills
much,
my heart to watch those
yeah.
women, develop and watch them shine and watch them be like, I don't have to be that people pleaser anymore. I can do something for me too.
Yeah. That's so good. Um, so this question, I don't know if you have an answer for this. I don't know if anybody has an answer for this. And I love what you're doing because we talked about this earlier. Women don't take time for themselves like they should. Or I haven't, and a lot of people don't. But how do you think that because the Facebook group that you added me to, I love because I've been able to find some guests in it, but I feel like every single person in there is a coach. And how do you think we got to the point where we need so many coaches? Like I think it's important. I think it's important. But how do you think in our world, how did we get to this point where we can't feel like you know what I mean? There's a balance somewhere. It's important and it's necessary because I mean I did it for 6 months. I needed it. I would not trade that 6 months for anything in the world. It changed my life. But I think some people are on the other end where they feel like they can't do anything by themselves. How do you think we got here? You
Well,
know what I'm
I
saying?
that's that no, that's a great question. It's interesting that you asked that question too, because like I talk with my coach, and oftentimes she's like, well, when I talk about growing my business, she's like, well, the people on your podcast, I'm like, well, they're all coaches, and she's like, well, Pearl, remember,
Right.
coaches need coaches. I'm like, oh, I don't look about that way.
Yes.
I think where the shift really happened was COVID. I think
Yeah.
we didn't talk about it as much as we weren't out there as much as what coaches are available. I think we do have a lot of coaches out there. Um, I I feel like before COVID, we didn't talk about mental fitness as much as we do today, and I
Right.
think that through COVID, if anything good came out of it, it was that we could see that we need support. Like being in our,
Yeah.
I tell everybody. It was like having a cow gun. I need to be taken away, but I can't leave my house moments, right? So that's why I started my cheer league. I have a community of women. We meet every Sunday evening from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. It came during COVID. I saw women like stressed out. I didn't want to be a teacher. I got to
Yeah.
teach my kids now. My partner's home with me all day and I don't want to be with them all day long. Like all these moments, literally the Calgon, I want to go away, but I can't get away moments. So I started the cheer league where we just come in, it's not recorded. We did 30 days of self-care and everybody still wanted more. And I think what happened was because we were all so locked in and we couldn't get out, we couldn't do anything, that it started heightening. And I think
Yeah.
that people started realizing at home, I've been through this journey. I want to share, right? It's important to understand too that coaches don't replace therapists, right? I think therapists
Right.
and coaches do cross over some. I
Yes.
have
Yes.
some clients that I'm their coach and they see a therapist, right? And the
Yeah.
therapist and I don't talk, we don't have conversations, but we're somewhat on the same page. So it's
Mhm.
important to know. And I love that more people are reaching out to, like you said, you had 6 months. It was a great 6 months for you. I
Oh
have a
yeah.
client right now. I mean, she's been with me a year and a half. She's coming to my retreat for the second time this year. And she shared today, like she has rheumatoid arthritis and she
Mhm.
wants to coach on that. She's been working. That's what we've been kind of working on the last year is how to get her message out. And she was like, somebody's like, I'm a mindful coach. I'm like, no, You are an RA mindful coach, because there's so many mindful coaches out there. Like, you've got to make
Yes.
sure if you're looking for a coach, you get the right coach you need. Like with me,
Right.
if you are somebody that is just showing up for everybody else, but you are not showing up for yourself, that's the client I want to work with, because I've been
Right.
there, right? I know what it's like. I know how it feels to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, to get mad because your kid asked you to make a grilled cheese sandwich and you're just like, I'm done. I'm spent. I can't even think about
Yeah.
making you a grilled cheese sandwich, right? So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of coaches because of that.
Yeah.
I think there's so many people that want to share and change the world too, and that's why we have more
Yeah.
coaches. But that's my take on it.
Yeah, it does. That makes a lot of sense. I didn't think about COVID, but that does make a lot of sense. I just wondered, I was thinking about that. I had a conversation about this the other day because I'm like, and especially just scrolling through that group, it's like, I'm a coach, I'm a coach, I'm a coach, I'm a coach. I'm
Right.
like, I've already talked to coaches. I need somebody different.
Yeah, no, and it's true that, and that's a good point that you're making too, is like, find out, like, how can you do things differently? Like, I'm getting ready to shift my podcast. You and I kind of did a little bit. I don't even know if you noticed
Yeah.
it, but we kind of did a little bit where we talk about something. I'm kind of like coaching with you. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I want to have conversations with women like yourself, and then let's coach on it. Let's empower people, like, to be recognized, like I got recognized in that report this week.
Yes.
That was so touching, because that's what I want. I want, and to
Right.
take the next step is, we have a camper. We have converted it into a mobile living room, and I want to go state to state, kind of like with you with your podcast. I want to show up in
Yes.
every state and show up and just have women come sit in the living room of the trailer, and let's have
Yeah.
conversations like, what's happening for you today? What's keeping you up at night? Where do you need support? And then, I don't believe in just going to someplace and taking. So we're doing this really cool thing. We're calling them pop and swag bags. So we're asking the women in, like, I live in Tampa. So let's say I go from Tampa to Texas, right? The women in Tampa, we're getting 20 women together to put things in a swag bag. We're making 20 swag bags. We want you in Texas to make 20. We're going to exchange 10 between everybody,
Oh,
but the
wow.
other 20, we're going to take to a nonprofit that supports
Yeah.
women, to be like, we're here for you. We know you're going through a lot. How can we help you? And
Wow.
so that's my next step with that goal.
That's awesome. That is such a great idea.
Thank
Well, if
you.
you come back to Texas, you have to tell me so I can see you.
I will be back for sure.
Good, good, good. Well, you tell me what was most fulfilling. What do you have fun with? Like, what's the most fun that you have? Being at the beach. That would
Oh
be my
yeah,
guess.
my fun is definitely being at the I love being at the
Yeah,
beach. I just I the beach is such a, like you were saying, it's just such a,
yeah.
the beach brings me so much peace. The
Mhm.
beach, when I think about the beach, I was actually at the beach the night before my son passed. And I
Oh,
was
wow.
like, I was so glad I had that peace that day, because it's so true. Like, people will tell you that it's the day before and the day after you lose a child. It's the hardest
Mhm.
thing ever in the world. But I remember, in fact, today I was doing a little video on TikTok to a song, and I came across that picture. I was like, that was the last picture I took on the beach before Matt passed.
Wow.
But that brings me peace to know that that's my spot, that God has created this beauty that you can look out in the water and know
Right.
that there's so much pouring out for you. You just have to reach out
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
Do you feel like, because we haven't talked about your son at all, but do you feel like, um, I'm sure you have changed. I'm sure things in you have changed since he
Yeah.
passed. But do you feel like you have presented yourself differently or been able to provide different things with the women that you're helping after you went through that?
It's so interesting you asked me that, because I went through this journey to figure out who I was, like, before he
Mhm.
passed, right? He saw me, like, Matt went through some stuff a few years before he passed. And he actually it's so funny how we are so, my son and I were so in tune with one another. I don't know what God put between the two of us, but we were not born, he was adopted. We adopted him as a baby, but I'm telling you, like, we could feel each other's stuff. And he
Yeah.
was away in Texas at in recovery. And one night I was having a challenge with a friend. I was up all night long, like I couldn't sleep. I was trying to sit and kind of quiet time. And he actually, he messaged me checking in on me. And then he asked me when he came home, he's like, how do you, mom, with all that stuff, like, how do you still show up and, like, find happiness? And I said to him, and so because I was able to do that before he passed and he could see that, I just told him, I
Yeah.
said, I truly believe that, now that I figured out who I am and I put my cape on first, I now have enough love, and whatever I need to pour into somebody else, I now have enough to do that, because I stopped doing for everybody else. And so
Right.
because of that, and he saw that, I feel like that's even more reason to continue living the life that I do. Because yeah, I
Yeah.
could go sit in my room and I could be depressed the rest of my life. And don't get me wrong, if anybody's listening to this and that's where you are in your grief journey, everybody's grief journey is so different. But
Right.
I just made a commitment to myself that, and I heard a song today. Somebody switched the song around. I think it's Tears in Heaven. I can't remember the name of the song, but they said, I still want you to live even though I'm not
Right.
there, right? They still want us to live. God still has things for us to do, that we still need to do these things that he has planned out for us. But if we shut it
Yeah.
down and we don't listen to that calling, you have no idea what kind of change you can make. Like I have two
Right.
friends that I knew before Matthew passed, and I didn't realize that they were doing grief stuff, that they had lost a child too, and they've taken that
Wow.
journey and they're paying it forward, right? So
Yeah.
for me, the biggest thing that I do, the biggest change is to keep that up, but also to remind everybody, you're not promised tomorrow. The biggest
Yeah.
thing that was a eye opener was after Matt passed, about a week later, one of his friends knocked on the door and was stopping in to visit Matthew. And to have to tell him that
Oh.
Matt passed was so hard. And then I was at a retreat with our friend Lisa at the
Mhm.
Hill Country, and my phone wasn't working. But for some reason, and I know it's a God thing, Matthew, I got this weird text saying, "Hey, how you been? I haven't seen you online lately." I'm like going, "I'm never online. What are they talking about?" Like I wasn't podcasting them, right? And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." They're like, "Hey, this is so and so. Isn't this Matt?" I'm like going, "No, this is Matt." Somehow or another, my number and my
Wow.
son's number merged together. So because of those two situations, July, and you can do this anytime. So if you're listening, July is, we call it, make the call for Matt. So pick up the phone, call somebody you haven't talked to in a while that's been on your mind, because the biggest lesson I can tell you that's been a reminder, and I knew it, but it's a now in my
Yeah.
face, you're not promised tomorrow. So
Right.
do something that you've been wanting to do. Don't wait till tomorrow. And then leave
Yeah.
your legacy, because what are you leaving behind? Because if you're
Right.
working, they're going to slide somebody into your job, and in your business, unless somebody's ready to take over your business, it's going to close up. So what are you doing to show up
Yeah.
for your life today? Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Well,
Thank
I
you.
love what you're doing. I think you're changing lives with these retreats, and you're changing lives with the people that you're talking to. And I've listened to some of your episodes on the talk radio, and I love it. I think it's great what you're doing.
Thank
So
you.
I was honored to be a part of that. I'm
It was
excited.
fun having you on.
Well, I thank you for talking to me today. I appreciate it. And, we talked about God's timing is always perfect. And, I met Lisa over a year ago, and she and Kristen were telling me a year ago, you need to meet Pearl. You need to talk to Pearl. And so, it was a full year before I did, but I'm so glad I did. I think
Same
it was
here.
perfect timing. So, well, thank you so much for talking to me. And I will make sure and have all your links and everything for people to find you. And if they want to sign up for a retreat or learn more about them, I'll make sure I have that information for them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.